Hello guys, Dan here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I will show you something new. I will show you actually how to paint this Ko Dali miniature from the Betrayal comic book with contrast paints over the black primer. So yes, this model will be fully painted with contrast. I will only use normal colors and traditional metals just to do the highlights. So without further ado, sit back, relax and enjoy the rest of the video. As I said in the intro, we will prime our model with black spray, and I will paint the backpack separately. And after the first layer of the primer is dried, we will apply some Zenithal Highlight on our model. How you do that? You take the white spray and you just spray your model from the angle like 45 or maybe even 60 degrees to 90 degrees to simulate the light source. And without moving the spray or the airbrush, just spray little sprays, little puffs until you create a light. So just rotate your model and keep the same angle and just do the little sprays until you get the perfect highlight. So this is a done model. As you can see, if you look at model from the top, you will see that model is much brighter, while if you look it from the bottom side, it will still be black. So the shadows will be still under the model, while we created the highlights at the top in preparation for the application of the contrast paints. First contrast paint that we will use today will be Akhelian green. So we will use all the contrast paints today. We will use them straight from the pot, and we will apply one very thick coat. So this particular paint I used only to paint the armor, and I painted the weapons on this model. Whenever I use the contrast paints, I use some of my very old brushes, and I repeat this in every single video. So if you paint a lot with contrast paints, use your old brushes before, because contrast paints have a tendency to destroy the brushes. So this is how I did the model. So you can pause here if you want to copy the same scheme. And on the jetpack I only painted a few parts with this color, and I will paint everything else with the other contrast paint that we will use. So you can do the same scheme. It will really turn out good if you copy the same. The second contrast paint I will use today, it's a Dark Angel's Green, and this is only for the backpack, and I will paint everything that remained unpainted on the backpack with this color. Guys, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. It will actually help this channel grow, so I would appreciate it. You guys managed to get your hands on the Betrayal and on the Outrage, the first manga graphic novel that they released. I'm currently reading the Outrage, and I can say it's really awesome, and I can't wait to finish that one so I can start reading the Betrayal. So let me know in the comments below what do you think about these graphic novels. Then I will use Magos Purple, another contrast paint, and just paint the visor on her head and paint the top parts of the guns that she's holding. For her body and all the under armor, we will use Gryph-Hound orange contrast paint, and as well as before, I will apply this in one very thick coat. Just try to be tidy as much as you can, not to go all over the parts that we previously painted, because it will be really difficult to do repair works at this stage. For this little tree that she's standing on, we will use Creed Camo contrast paint, and as well one very thick coat, and just let it dry properly after. For her face and the hair, I used the same contrast paint, Basilicanum Grey. Here I was thinking, like, should I go a little brighter and make her skin a little brighter, or leave it darker, and I made a choice to paint it a little darker, so I used this one. If you want it to be a brighter, you will go with the Apothecary White at this stage. When you are done, leave the model for good half an hour so all the colors get dried properly, so we can start highlighting the model. So first color that we'll use for the highlights will be a Troll Slayer Orange, and we will start working on her under armor first. So I will go with this color in one or two very thin coats, depends on which part of the armor and how the color actually works, because we are working over the dark surfaces here and this color is very bright, so to have a nice coverage you should go with the two very thin coats. So go all around and paint on her body armor, like highlight everything but leave all the recesses in the shade and in the darker color, while on the jetpack you paint all these little lights and rivets with this color. You can copy the same scheme as I did. For our second highlight, we will use the Fire Dragon Bright. So at this time, we will just draw little lines and little dots only on the most raised areas of the armor. Because this armor is really nice sculpted, you can just follow the lines of the sculpt and just highlight them. On her jetpack, you will just paint the top sides of these lights. For the next stage, I will use Bloodletter glaze paint from Gang's Workshop, and I will just glaze everything that we painted orange on her body. The thing is, with this glaze, you will tie up all the colors together and all the transitions, so there won't be any big differences in the highlights. If you don't have this color, you can use a Gryph-Hound orange contrast and add a lot of contrast medium into it so to create the glaze, and you will have a very similar effect. And the thing is, with this color it will give a little reddish tone to this paint job. So this is how it looks like when it's dried, and it's I can say it looks really decent. And the last thing that we will do with these lights is that I will use the ice yellow and just put a little dot as my final highlight, just to create like a glowing effect. So I will go around the jetpack, and only on these little lights I will just make a little dot on every single one of them. For the blue highlights, I will use the Fenerisian Grey, and for the weapons and all the armor I will do the edge highlight. So I will just take a little paint on my brush, and I will use mostly side of my brush. I will make like a 45-degree or 90-degree angle against the model, and I will just pull the side of my brush to draw nice and thin lines. So following this method, go around the model and highlight every single sharp edge that this model have to complete this highlight. On the jetpack, you will do the same process, and on the jetpack it's even more easier because it's much bigger and the edges are much longer and you have more space to work. So just be patient and go around and highlight every single one of them. So on the both parts, actually, the one that we painted with the Akhelian green and the other one that we painted with the Dark Angels green. So it doesn't matter which color it is, just highlight everything. With this highlight done, now our model starts looking better and better. So there is still a few more steps before we finish with the highlights. For her face and the hair, I used the Deepkin Flesh, and I applied this only on the most raised areas of her braids on the hair, and on her face I highlighted only the most raised areas like nose, lips, eyebrows, cheeks. She have a little scar there as well, so I highlighted the area around it. And for these little hair clips that she have there, I used the Retributor armor and just painted them in the gold color. For this branch that she's standing on, I used the mood green and I just did a really rough highlight. So not everywhere, just here and there, a couple of raised areas, couple of raised edges, just put some rough highlights because you don't really want to draw attention from your model to this part of the base. So you don't need to put too much effort on it or too much details, so just really rough. And then after I finish with that, I use the Averlend Sunset and I just put little dots on the most raised areas or the edges on the corners. I just put a little dot just to create some kind of the highlight and reflection. And the last thing, I will go again back to the Magos purple and I will do a little glaze on the top of her guns again, just to create a little purple tone. And I will do this as well on the top of her braids on the hair, just to create a different tone, like slightly purplish. And that's it, this amazing model is completed. I will transfer her to the base. And if you're interested how I make this base, I will include the video in the description below, so you can follow those steps there and make a totally same look. And guys, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because it will mean a lot to me. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please make a comment below. And that's it from me for now. Take care, stay safe, and see you soon in the next video.